Hi everyone, welcome back to the Ranger Shop. So in this episode you can see we got a lot going on here. I've been sanding down my truck. I'm going to be Raptor lining the whole thing. So that's going to be a video coming up, but unfortunately they lost my shipment in the mail of paint. So I'm going to move on to another project here. So in this project I'm getting things ready for installing the supercharger. So I've been installing an air fuel meter. That's coming up in another video. But in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to install an electric fan. Now, I've got the mechanical fan in here. And what it's supposed to do is when it's cold, it's supposed to spin freely. Then once it heats up, it locks on and it spins full force. But with these cheap aftermarket fans, pretty much they're spinning all the time full force. And it's robbing a lot of power. And I really don't even like the noise. It just makes too much noise for me. So because I've got the supercharger going on here, there's going to be a draw already on my from my belt on my load on my engine. So this is going to eliminate some of that load. It's going to eliminate spinning this fan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, and what I'm going to try to do is I want to keep the fan shroud that's on here right now. I like having a shroud. I don't like mounting these right to the radiator. I find that it doesn't direct enough air through all the parts of the radiator. It's just that one little section in the center. Maybe if you had two, like spaced, that might work. But we're just putting this one fan on. So the parts, I'll have the parts linked in the description. Check out the description. I bought these off Amazon. I actually got them off Amazon clearance, so that worked out quite well. And then I'm going to be using an actual controller, a variable speed controller. So that allows it to not just come on hard, your fan, it ramps it up. I think it ramps it up to, I don't know, like 30 and then 60 or 70% then full on, depending on the temperature of your motor, which makes complete sense. So that's going to be, we're going to cut and install that and install it in the hose, the radiator hose. That's where the sensor goes. And then we'll mount our controller somewhere, and then we're going to get this mounted in. So let's get started. We're going to strip out all this stuff out of here and really expose the area we're working on and see how we can mount this in nice and solid onto the shroud. Okay, so here's our parts that we've got to do this install. And again, check out the description for an actual link. There's the part number. It's a lowboy. And it's a puller. And then these are the parts that come with the variable speed. Here's the variable speed controller kit. And it's got the controller. And then all the wiring, a big fuse holder in there. And then the sensor that's going to be plugged into that thing. Good, so let's get started. Let's get into this thing now. Our fan's out. You can see the clearance we've got. It's very close. Like if you look straight down here, between here and then down there, the pulley, you can see there's not much room in between here. So basically when we're looking at our fan here, this is our fan. That's how it's going to go in there, just like that. But the back of that fan motor can't be much further past the back of this shroud. Basically I'm going to set it, I think, to the same depth as this shroud. To attach it, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and make use of these attachment points here on the fan. There's four. There's two on the top and two on the bottom. Bolt basically slides in here and then can bolt this. So I think what I'm going to do is I've got a little bit of checker plating, and I might try and cut some strips to attach to this shroud that will then support the fan. Let's see what we can come up with. So here's our setup here. This is just the factory shroud, and then what I did is I had some, and honestly it's just because of what I had kicking around. So I had some checker plate. You can see that this is checker plate material. Checker plate's on the other side, and I just cut it in strips, and then bolted it to the shroud, and then bolted it through to the fan. But honestly, it probably should be. I think you could fit an 18-inch. fan in here, like another inch on either side would be perfect, but 16 will be enough. I mean, it's a small engine, it's not getting pushed too hard. We'll see. I'll let you know when I'm towing and stuff if it starts overheating. So this is now in there. It's solid. I've got it bolted in. I use stainless hardware except for these washers. I didn't have any of that size. But everything's stainless and it's really solid in there. So let's try it and just see if it fits. Okay, so that's it in there. It actually didn't fit at first. I had to shim it back, so I basically just put a nut in between this checker plate and the fan just to slide it a little bit, just maybe an inch, half an inch towards the radiator. So now it's got good clearance down there. You can see it's, you know, it probably has half an inch in there. So that's perfect. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to fill in the sides. I think I'm just going to use some tin and fill in the sides so that all the way around the shroud it's forcing the air to go through the fan. Here's our completed setup. So I just took some tin, filled that in between the checker plating. So this is basically what's holding it, that chunk of 1/8 inch checker plating in this chunk. And then this here is just tin. But just to keep all the air coming through here so that it's pulling evenly from all over the radiator. So I'm going to slide that in there now, and then we'll get started on the controller. Where I mounted the controller and the fuse. The reason for it probably is not the best spot. Probably like a vertical spot would be better than this horizontal. But what I was thinking is when I want to work on anything like I want to take the water pumper or something out, I'm going to want to take this assembly out, and this way I'll just disconnect the power and the ground off the battery, and then unplug the sensor and my switch, and then I can just pull this whole unit right out of here and have it right out of the way so I can continue working on stuff. So that's my reasoning anyways. Just a few things in the install. It came with those cheap connectors, you know, the hard plastic. Don't ever use those, they're garbage. On Amazon you can buy these shrink connectors. It's got glue in here, and then when you heat it, it shrinks, and then the glue seals it, so no water is coming into this connection at all. It's all completely sealed. Also with the connectors itself, you can tell if it's a good connector if there is a ring in there, in a line, or if it's solid. If it's solid, it's a good butt connector. I know we talked about that quite a bit, but just wanted to reiterate that again. No, if you see a line in here, or if it's you can see a line in there, don't use them. They really don't work very well. Go with a solid tube. So these are just shrink tube butt connectors. I'll link them, the Amazon link, what I use, but honestly you can buy them wherever you want. And this makes it nice and sealed up. So I've got this in. Now I'm going to start on the sensor for the coolant temperature. So I'm going to get that installed next. Okay, so now we need to put our sensor in our radiator hose here that's going to be controlling our fan, our electric fan. So to do that, what we need to do is drain off a bit of the coolant, but so that I don't have to go and bleed the whole block, I've got these little clamps. I just clamp the top radiator hose, and then I clamp the bottom radiator hose, and then I drained out maybe about a gallon of fluid out of the rad that'll get it down below this level here. We're also going to take this chunk here out of here because this hose is going to be going on this side because the supercharger that's going to be going in here. So here I've cut that hose. I've cut about 6 inches out of it, and I've routed it in front of my oil fill. That's for the supercharger installation that's going to happen later on. Here's the chunk that was in there before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this part here. So that part number is Flexolite part number 32082. And what this does is allows your sensor to go in line right in the upper radiator hose. And then also I'm going to have my sensor for my coolant in here. So the problem is it doesn't have a ground in here on this for my coolant. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little clamp on this sensor here, because you can't put the clamp, you can't run the ground to here because the Teflon tape will interfere with the ground going through here once I Teflon tape these fittings up. So right on the actual sensor itself, I'm going to run a little clamp, and I'm going to run my ground wire to there, and then my sensor wire. So we've got our sensors installed now in line. You can see I've got my ground here for the coolant temperature sensor. I've got my fan switch sensor underneath. Right now I'm just doing a quick pressure test on it. So it's good. It's been about 15 minutes. 15 psi, 15 minutes. Okay, so now we fill it up, top up the coolant, put all our stuff back in, finish our wiring. Okay, so for the key power for my fan, I'm just going right to my speed control. So we got the truck running, and we can see here we're lit up, so we know that it's got power to the module. This is how you adjust the temperature. So I'm going to see when it cuts on, and then either you just increase the temperature or lower the temperature, one of the two, to where you want it. Okay, let's wrap this project up. So it turned out really well. The electric fan, I got it set in right now. I've dialed it in so that it comes on at 170, and that's at 60%, and then it slowly ramps itself up till when it hits 180, it's at 100%. And that's right around the sweet spot. That's where I'd like it, around 180. It's about 10 degrees less than normal. You know, like a normal truck, you're looking around 190, 200, you want to run it. But a lot of that's to do with the emissions, you know, with your cats working efficiently, with recycled EGR gas, that sort of thing. But with this, I don't have the EGR, but especially with a supercharger, we're going to be boosting it, compressing the air. It's going to give more heat to the air. So I got to get rid of the heat. And I think this electric fan is going to help me to do that. So that's it. I think I'm quite happy with it. We'll let you know. I'll keep you posted on how it goes, whether it works out all right as I'm towing. But give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe for some more Ranger videos to come. We've got a lot of really good stuff to come up. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.